So we're still working on the manuscript, but I just wanted to run by you some stuff. I just wanted if you could take a look at the table and tell us what you think about it. It's like so basically what we included in the table was the author year, the type of study, the screening test, what cancers are included, sample number, the patient and control, and the age, sex distribution, and their key results. So that's all we included in our first table, which is the characteristics table. I was just wondering if you think there anything additional that we could include or exclude. Yeah.
I think these are all general population. There's no other like high risk features, right? Age and
Not
sex.
really. No.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no like no smoker studies, no, you know, like, right? No high risk features.
Not that I know of. I don't think so.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I think this is pretty good.
I could double check. I could reread and double check. But if there were high risk, would you prefer we include in like a separate column or something? Like, how would that work?
If it is high risk, I don't think they should be included.
Oh,
It can be discussed, but because you're not comparing apples, because
Yeah.
apples to oranges, right? So,
As
and
far
then
as I know, yeah.
just simple, the Cohen et al. 2018. I would put like a reference number. This is all after everything is written.
Okay.
Yeah, so that they can actually go
Yeah.
back and look at the reference.
Okay, so here you mean there should
Yeah,
be like a
next to
reference
the year.
number?
Next to the year 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. It looks good.
Okay. And then I was we're writing out the results and we had some questions. So basically for the narrative part of the result, what we're going to include for each journal is, well, the author year, and then what kind of population they have, like how many cancer patients, how many healthy controls, or if it's a cohort study, then how many cohort, like how many people are in the cohort and what kind of cancers they're looking at. Because like some of the studies restrict the cancers to like 3 or 4. And what kind of screening test they are examining. So like a sentence on what screening test it is. And then we're gonna include the results. If they have sensitivity and specificity, that's what we're gonna say. If they don't, then whatever result they do present. And something interesting about the work, if there is, because some of them went further with their test to like merge it up with the existing exams like CT scans or PET scans. So that's how I was writing the results, but I was wondering if there were anything else that you would like us to include for each journal in addition to this.
Mm.
Because it was kind of hard to like how comprehensive we should deal with each journal, like deciding that was kind of hard.
Yeah, no, I like the flow. It looks okay.
Okay, so our flow for the narrative part looks like this. Richard was amazing to divide it up. So we'll start out with the methylation-based essays just because that's the for ctDNA, but just because that's the Galleri test. And we just wanted to start it off with the Galleri test and the pan-cancer. So the narrative part is just going to flow based on screening tests. So we're going to start out with the methylation, and then we're going to move on to the ctDNA sequencing tests and the ones that use biomarkers. and then like non-DNA tests. So that's how we were thinking about going with the narrative part, and that's how we're writing it out. But is there like a better way, in your opinion, to present the information? Basically, we just presented the journals we just grouped the journals based on the screening tests, and then we're just presenting them like that.
This
But
is my suggestion for every paragraph. Start with a simple idea.
like,
Because everything, the first sentences has to be more abstract. It doesn't have to be like detailed information. So you could say methylation, and then you can it's not just methylation of what? Methylation of, is it circulating free DNA, or is it because well, we don't have phenome here. I want to say phenome looks at mostly host cfDNA, just like Biodesix is using mass spec of the host proteins. But CancerSeq is looking at tumor proteins. So this division between, is it mostly host or is it tumor only? So that's one important logic. And methylation, are we looking at methylation of tumor shed, circulating tumor DNA, or are you looking at methylation of the whole DNA? Some are shed from our own liver cells. So that's really important. What methylation are you looking at? And you can look at the manuscript to make sure what they looked at.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big division. Are you looking at more host, more tumor? But within tumor, are you looking at ctDNA? Are you looking at protein? Are you looking at RNA? So that's the next division. And then within ctDNA, are you looking at more methylation? Are you looking at more fragment size? Or are you looking at more sequencing? So the way you divided methylation and ctDNA sequencing is a little bit different than what I'm suggesting. So, it's the ctDNA based screening. If ctDNA plays a major role, and it may be, you could say, if that's something like CancerSeq, you can put that in multi-omics screening, and then just having a ctDNA and protein, and make sure that's a protein of tumor shed into the blood. So that's how I would categorize it. And some use combination, and so maybe it's better to do it's a single solely based on one omics, and then combination. And also clarify, is it host, is it tumor? And I would discuss methylation not as like the first category, but as under the ctDNA. Are they only looking at methylation, or are they looking at copy numbers too? Because it's all specified in the method of the paper. But usually, like let's say Guardant, they look at fragment size, methylation, some sequencing, and they claim that they are looking at some proteins. But we're not doing Guardant, they're only doing colorectal right now. So, but anyway, that's one example. But I don't know, each study is looking at unique things. So that would be my category. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go through them again and reclassify.
Yeah, right. And then so each paragraph, early detection assays, I would say ctDNA methylation of ctDNA are used as the main technology or main what is the main mechanism or main method for analysis. So that's really abstract, and then you describe each platform under that. So try to start like first sentence of each paragraph with the main idea, then methylation, and then proteomics, and whatever that is, and then try to utilize first, second, lastly, or try to utilize some.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What was that? I was gonna say something. I don't remember what I was gonna say. Oh yeah. Oh, so this is. I just wanted to double clarify. This is what I was looking at, the author groups. They're not in order of any sort. I will order everything out after we're like finished with the manuscript. I am looking at next week's lab meeting as like the first draft for the manuscript. So like the first complete draft, hopefully, fingers crossed, by next Tuesday. I'm gonna ask all the authors that's their deadline, and if they can't make it, they can't make it. So it's gonna be next Tuesday with the rough draft. I understand the undergrads are not around, but yeah, but we don't have much time, so yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that I grouped people into first author, second author, third author groups, and we'll finalize the order after we're done with the manuscript. And the manuscript's roughest first draft should be ready by next week, Tuesday.
So the author really has to contribute at the level of, contributing to actual contents.
Yes.
If it's just English grammar typo correction, they don't qualify to be author. And Minjung has created the authorship qualification for Taylor. So
I saw that.
Yeah. Did Yesil Kim work with you? I see her name.
Yisul?
Right.
I was gonna ask her to do a final read of
Yesil?
the journal.
But I think you
not
put
Yesil. I put Yisul.
So her actually start with L.
Oh, wait, what? I don't understand. Liesel?
Yeah, that's how she spells her name.
Oh, my bad. That was me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna send over this manuscript after.
Okay.
We're done. Yeah,
one more thing is for academic papers, we you know how we always put company name and actual product name more in the method in the parenthesis, because we're not writing this to promote one company or one product. So I don't want in a table or graph or in the main text, I want you to refer to as like methylation based assay or multiomics.
For the final table too, like if you look at the final table, how we start out with CancerSeq, so you wouldn't want that there. You would not want it there.
So I want you to still put it in there, but put it very end in the parentheses.
Oh, okay.
So that people can still match that. So everything that talks about brand name, put it in the parentheses in the very end, and figure out a way to call it. Remember Signatera paper? We're not calling Signatera test. Signatera test show that we're calling it MRD
That's
essay
true.
show that, right? So we're trying to promote science, not each product.
Okay,
So, so
Okay.
I think that's important.
okay. Sounds good. Yeah, everyone's been working really hard. Eugene has been doing amazing stuff with the meta-analysis. Already has been working on the table. She's gonna help out write a paragraph in discussion. Liam is gonna help out in discussion too. Richard is helping me with results. Eugene, do you want to present the meta-analysis?
Results.
Yeah.
Can I do that right now?
Sure. I'll stop sharing.
Yes. So somehow I was able to pull up all the results, but honestly, like I'm figuring out how to interpret that results, and I think I do have to run some more analysis on heterogeneity or some other like external analysis on this meta. But I will do that. I'll finish that by this week. And this is the results of pooling analysis as of now. And I wanna hear some comments from Dr. Che if that's feasible for you on your thoughts on this result. Yes, so in R, they provide us to pull up sensitivity and specificity separately. And I classify the studies based on study type, like case control and cohort. And interestingly, like for multi-cancer types, it means that when we look at the test results covering all the cancer types, sensitivities are like around 65%, and specificity is about over 97%. And among the study types, there were no differences. And they also provide us with the metrics called diagnostic odds ratio. And I just Googled it, and it says like for general diagnostic test, if the value is over 10, it can be assumed as like decent diagnostic test, but it is over 60. And I honestly don't know like what this means exactly, but I know we like it is calculated with some formula, and I'll figure out how to interpret this number, such as like, is it better to have higher number? Is there any like set limit of the DOR? And I know there's 10 out of there, but does 65 means, how can I interpret 65 for multi-cancer screening test? I'll write it out in the result part. And I think this SRC curve is the standard format of reporting results of meta-analysis on diagnostic accuracy tests. Yes, and usually they report 4 values: AUC and area under curve, and sensitivity and false positive, which can be interpreted as specificity. And also here, I should put DOR as well, but I have to figure out that number, and I'll update that. And yes, And I'm thinking of changing this false positive rate into specificity, but if I don't need to do that, I'll just leave this as it is. And these are the result. This is the results for early cancer. So when we only selected the results on stage 1 and 2 cancers, sensitivity dropped a lot. It was 65 for multi-cancer, like all stages, but for early cancer, it dropped to less than 50, but the specificity remains, or it just went up. Yes, DOR went up above 100, and yeah, this is our SRC curve for early cancer. And advanced cancer, which means stage 3 and 4. Interestingly, sensitivity went up more than 80, and specificity remains pretty same. And like DOR is over around like 600, and SRC curve is like this.
So how do you calculate DOR?
DOR, I can show you the formula. Oh, actually, DOR is likelihood, a positive likelihood ratios over negative likelihood ratio. And I thought I saw the simple formula for this. Yeah, actually, so you remember the Excel sheet that I summarized? I put the 4 values, like true positive, true negative, false negative, and false positive, and they calculate R calculates DOR based on that 4 numbers, and these are the formulas. This is the formula.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just for you guys, for your learning, sensitivity and specificity, they are not affected by prevalence, correct?
Right.
They're not affected by the prevalence of the disease in the population tested, correct?
Yes, but the predictive values are influenced by the.
Right. So in the all the graphs that you generated, there's no PPV, NPV, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the accuracy, and there's a Yoden's index. Sometimes we calculate that for diagnostic tests. I think some reviewers might want to see that.
Accuracy and Yoden's index?
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I'll figure out how I can incorporate, because the package that I used for generating these results, I don't think they provide us Yoden's and accuracy result, but I'll figure out if you want me to put that results as well in this.
So maybe you could generate
the table, including all numbers and values, or maybe I can make a table like this and then put another column called Yoden's index and accuracy. And according to this table, like I think I don't even need to R to calculate accuracy and Yoden's index. it can be done like in Excel, because if we have these four basic numbers, and because we were able to pull sensitivity and specificity, so if I can use that numbers, then
Yeah. I wonder if
oh sorry.
is accuracy gonna be affected by prevalence? I'm trying to think,
Mm,
because it's just everybody,
Yeah,
among
accuracy would
everybody.
be affected by prevalence.
Yeah. So then no, because we have case control, which
Yeah,
is not
they said
accurate reflex.
the thing that Eugene used, the diagnostic OR,
Mm,
that's not affected by prevalence.
right,
And
right,
like
right.
accuracy
Yeah.
is
So I think if we're all dealing with same case control or cohort, then accuracy is a really good measure. I like it, but I don't think we can use it if we're to combine them. So Yoden's is not affected. So you can do Yoden's index and maybe come up with not, this is not for data pooling. You don't have to pull Yoden's index.
okay.
You can just create a histogram or bar or a graph that simply kind of the highest to lowest, you know, and you can do that for sensitivity and specificity. Just line these tests up. People would want to see that in ranks. So just the general graph, y-axis being Yoden, sensitivity, specificity, and just line them up with highest, lowest for each study. You don't have to put, you could just put the first author and the year for those bars. I think that would be a good description people would want to see.
Okay, you mean that the studies that are included in the meta-analysis, right? Or the okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so until now I presented the results for multi-cancer still. I only classify them into stage early and late, advanced. And
Yeah, I think that's fine.
okay. And I'm thinking of, so here I just said that sensitivity dropped and went up just according to the the
Yeah.
numbers, but I'm thinking of doing actually run a statistical analysis to see whether these numbers are really different or not. So yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just add that small part so that we can really say that these are sensitivities are different according to the stage. And from now on, although the study numbers really decreased when I classified the results depending on each cancer type, but interestingly, if you see this last page, SRC curve shapes are really different depending on the cancer types. Although I cannot interpret what each shape means which means which, but so lung cancer, colorectal, breast, and ovarian. There are a handful of studies that I can pull up, like 3 or at least 3. I'm thinking of not classifying them into case control and cohort, but to be consistent, would it be better, to remain classifying type?
I like it better.
Okay, so yeah, at least 4 studies are there for each cancer type, I think. Yes, and if you see the like the range, pulled range that it shows sometimes not that reliable, but still I pulled that up, and then if I set the baseline result as all cancer type, multi-cancer type, then we can compare each cancer type result. Like colorectal, I think colorectal excelled on, like, in terms of sensitivity. And ovarian look not doing well in terms of sensitivity,
Hmm.
and lung cancers are decent. But still, I need some more studying to appropriately interpret or write it up, write these results up. Mm,
And I know your program produces false positive rate, but
huh?
I think I think if there's a way to change that to specificity,
Mm-hmm.
I
Then
feel like that's better.
okay,
But that's how it's reported in most.
right.
I mean, you can look at other diagnostic concordance papers and see what kind of graph they made.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I'm more used to sensitivity specificity.
right. I saw some users use some code to actually change this false positive to the specificity, and I think that that's not gonna be that hard, so I will do that. And then, as you recommended, in the real results, I will delete the company name. Okay. Such as Gallery or Delphi, CancerSeq. I'm gonna delete that.
Yeah, for actual paper. But you can leave it here for us to know. Yeah.
Okay, for us to know. But
Mm.
for generate when I generate the figure for the paper itself, then I should delete the
Mhm,
company,
mhm.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so, Dr. J, do you want? So I'm thinking of how many figures I can I can group this. So there are a bunch of figures, a bunch of images, but I'm thinking of making multi, early, and advanced stage results in a one figure, and then other, like, one, like, main figure. And for each cancer types, I'm gonna make it into just one supplementary figure. How does that sound to you?
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay, including all sensitivity, specificity, and DOR and SRC curve into
So you can do, if it's supplemental, you can do each type supplemental 1, 2, 3, 4 each type.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that would be better.
Yeah.
And mhm. And for it's gonna be like duplication, but do you want, maybe I can just write the results in the paragraph directly, not making this kind of a table, right? Or
No, I think table's good.
table
You
is
see sensitivity, I'll put sensitivity, specificity, and then
you
you can put Yoden's um index there.
okay. Okay, I will make another column, add another column, yeah. Okay, so these are pretty much are all, and I'm gonna add some more just technical analysis on heterogeneity, and but I guess heterogeneity will be very high here, even like I square values are pretty much high, over 90. So but early it's almost 0, so yeah, it differs depending on each types, but
Mhm.
yeah, I will add the heterogeneity analysis part. mm, apart from this.
Good.
Professor, how much of the single cancer analysis do you want us to include in writing? Will like a paragraph suffice?
Yeah. Because that's
Okay.
not the whole point. It's more multi-cancer focus.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And I can see major argument on can you really pull this type of discussion? And there's no right or wrong, okay? You can be pure. It's like same thing. If the population's not same, the essay is not same, unless it's like two same gallery tests, and even gallery test two papers may be a little bit different. The one that came out later, maybe you have used little bit different, like algorithm wise, what do you think? Are they exact same test, two gallery tests?
Mm. As
Um,
far as I'm concerned, I thought they were exactly the same. The
Okay.
first and the second are different, but the second and the third were the same. Well, they refined it a little, but
Yeah. So my guess,
I
yeah,
guess
my
if you're
guess,
gonna be like super specific, they're gonna be
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. If you're a purist, it has to be exactly same algorithm.
different.
But as it's like 1 year later, the algorithm has to change, have to optimize better. You know what? That's how computer apps. You have to download the most recent app, right? Like to get the bugs. And the same is true for sequencing algorithms as well. So no platform is going to be same. So if you're a purist, you can argue you should not pull because they're not the same assay. So we know that. So I think we have to write that out in our paper, that we understand that these are not the same platform. But for the purpose of understanding how these markers in general, like blood-based multi-cancer, as long as they meet our criteria to call this multi-cancer blood-based early detection assay, the goal is to have a general idea of how these tests are performing as a group. Therefore, we decide to pull. You know what I mean? Like we have to say it out that of course we understand these are not the same tests, and therefore we cannot pull this. We know that, but still, despite that, we want to know how the field is evolving. Like, as a group, are they testing? Are they performing similarly or very differently, or is it very different per tumor type or staging? How different? We want to at least understand that the trend or the general performance of this. Yes, these. So I think you just have to have that disclaimer in the method. That will help people to be less critical.
Oh, you wanted in the method, not the discussion?
Or little bit in the introduction, actually. Like although this is
Introduction?
although this is a different essay, because we in the introduction you have to say we did it meta-analysis.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
introduction has to say, this is our logic, and therefore we did comprehensive review and meta-analysis. But you have to say understanding that these tests are little all different, but we did meta-analysis anyway. Like that, we need that sentence in the introduction. And method
Okay.
is more in detail. We pulled this data. But some disclaimer in methods. And you can write a little bit more in the discussion if you have with our limitations are like so like whatever. But that's every reviewer is going to say that, like, you cannot pull this, but it's not a problem of right or wrong. It's like, how flexible are you going to be? You say immunotherapy, the effect of immunotherapy, can you pull PD-L1 and CAR T cell? You know, can you call that immunotherapy? Can you call cancer mRNA vaccine immunotherapy? I mean, it is immunotherapy, it's immune system activation. Like, but are you going to able to do meta-analysis? So that's, you know, kind of very subjective question. So just be aware and write that out. So anything you think reviewers going to criticize, disclose. We are aware of these limitations, and still we pursued because we think that at least this, you know, having this hypothesis, you know, generating data is important or something like that. Okay, anything else?
Like really quickly, I found a new article that I thought we could include in the review paper. Let me share. So this is an article I found in another paper, but basically they like isolate platelets from the patient like blood samples and then look at mRNA expressions of different like mRNA transcripts. And like I kind of summarized it on the bottom, but like I was wondering because like we have like papers where they talk about like isolating monocytes or like peripheral like different cells in the blood basically, and looking at like protein biomarker expressions and stuff. So I thought it could fit in, but I wanted to see your opinion on it.
Let me see. Can you magnify?
Yeah, let me.
You can do slideshow. Okay, better. Tumor educated platelets, blood-based pan-cancer, multi-class and molecular pathway cancer diagnostic. Expression of 1000 RNA transcripts. Sample. Training, validation, accuracy of cancer origin. Healthy cancer males. mRNA-seq analysis. This is pretty good result. Okay, Julie, does this article meet our inclusion criteria?
Yeah, I told him to include it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it does too. But this is really novel. That the platelet would know. And it's platelets that are tumor educated. Wow. This is wild. This is like, who would have thought this? See, this is why I say host has all the imprintings. You know, you're looking at not tumor platelets. These are platelets that knows that you have tumor in your body. So I would be interested to know the cancer patient, what stage of cancer they have.
Staging, okay.
Maybe they're not clear on that, but because these are small studies. But see, we don't know who the winner is gonna be. This may be a very more cost-effective. RNA-seq is cheaper than DNA sequencing. So who knows who's gonna win? And this combined with DNA methylation may be much more accurate. So yeah. But this was published in 2015, and
Yeah, it was a while ago. I was surprised too.
this makes me think that someone probably pursued this further and didn't find as good result. Something.
Hmm.
This is really interesting. Yeah, so Richard, why don't you dig some more, like follow some author papers? You can search by the main authors and see what they have since 2015 published in this arena, and maybe they really have bad results somewhere, that made them to drop this project or something.
Hmm.
Um, or you can email the corresponding author, like, hey, has this technique been further developed or pursued in any commercial sector, or where is technology? I'm very interested to know. And did you guys publish anything further after this? Email and let me, Juhi, Eugene know.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. Anything else? Okay,
Okay,
good.
I'm sorry, but I have to go answer a call because I'm on call. It was really good seeing you. Bye. Sorry about that.
Bye. Good job. Okay. Well, since Richard, you just spoke, any update from you?
Oh, I was mostly working with Juhi on her review, like
Mm,
up right and like the discussion part in the table 1.
mm,
It took a long time to like go through all of the articles for sure and like read up on them, but I found some interesting ones I can talk about in the discussion at least. So
good.
yeah, that was the
Good.
only one that I found that they like, because like in the introductions they like to talk about like, oh, like building off like prior like studies, like we did these, but that was the only one I found. So yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, that's how you find interesting, articles and develop interest and critically analyze it. And yeah, good, good, good. I think you're making progress. Good. All right, keep on doing what you're doing, and we're almost at the end. Okay. Junie, do you have any update?
Hi, Dr. Che. So we were planning initially to write it, but now we are still collecting data. So I'm planning to come to lab on Wednesday to collect some data. And then Arnie will elaborate more that after that, now we are planning to write it on weekend.
Sounds good. All right, so we'll go to Arnie. Update from you?
Hi, Dr. Che. Yeah, last week kind of bad for me. Sorry. Yeah. So basically, okay, I will share my screen first. Also, I'm really happy today there is Minjong, so we can discuss a little bit that we discussed last week. We have a lot discussion after talking the lab meeting last week, and I want to contact you actually last week, but I sick last week, so yeah, pretty bad week, so I didn't contact you, but I'm happy that you joined this lab. So I will share my screen. Sorry. So for the resist data, we're still working for the immuno, the first line, the second line, and the name of the drug, and also like the date of the last contact and the date of progression for each patient. And amazingly or not, unfortunately, me and Eugene find many people from, like, as an example, from 17 patients. So we just knew there's 2 more patients actually doesn't receive immunotherapy. So we will exclude it at the end. And also there is some patient that have twice, like received twice immunotherapy. So like first line and second line, or second line and the third line. So we will count the RECIST again for the patient who have double immunotherapy, right? Yeah, so see, we still work on this table for filling it out. I wish this week I can finalize this table and analyze by the weekend and start writing the abstract again, maybe in the weekend and in Monday. So in the next Tuesday, there will be another things that we can present, because yeah, this is another job for us. And sorry. And also, because Minjong in here yesterday, last week when we talked about the graphic, we see there is like a negative slope, Minjong. So do you have any feedback about, because you write the manuscript, you write a manuscript and you write also like about 3 definitions. Do you know how to deal with negative slope? Like this one, like some with Ferreira, when we put it in the clinical data, like most of them like have negative slope from the pre-baseline to the baseline. So do you know, like is this like the impact of like the downfall of the definitions because they have a negative slope? Also in SADA BUSID, most of them like have a stable disease. So last week we discussed it about how to deal with negative slope, or like zero or stable disease. And also for the hyperprogression criteria, when we make the graph, the sum is like, if we use RECIST criteria, we only use the target lesion as the sum. But last week, Dr. J suggests us to add the new target lesion for the sum of the total sum. So not only the target lesions, but also the new lesion as the sum. Please give us feedback for these 2 problems. I think that's all that I can go for this week. We will finalize the table this week and analyze it for next week. Also, I already asked Liam also to contact the author about dealing with negative slope, like what we discussed last week. I think that's all. Thank you.
Should I try to answer?
Yeah, you can answer.
I think regarding the negative slopes, I know some papers made a graphical representation like this, and I'll have to look into it, because for my meta-analysis, I was combining the results from already published papers. So I didn't get to exactly look at individual patient data. So I'll look more into papers who made these graphs. And then second of all, the second point was doing RECIST by adding the new lesions into the total sum, correct?
Right.
May I ask what you were concerned about, or what? I didn't quite understand the second question.
So like this, the definition of progressive disease, like if you have new target lesions, even the target, even if the target lesions didn't grow, but if you have a new lesions, it will be defined as progressive if it's like in RECIST 101. Right. So some of it, as you can see, actually this is like not progressing a lot, because for making this graph, we only put the sum of the target lesions. So that's why giving an idea, like if we sum the new lesions, will the number increase like more progressive? Because
Mm,
for like if you use Champion have the RESIS criteria, so you need the TGK and TGR and also criteria progressive disease, right? But the progressive, so it's back to the topic again. Like if we see the slope, like this is like just like a little bit amount, right? That's why we're thinking, should we add the target lesions as the total sum? Sorry, we add the new lesions as the total sum, so it will show more progressions in this graph. So that's kind of the thought, because
I see. Mhm.
yeah, I think you know the problem now.
Right. So first answering this portion, the authors who proposed the main definitions of hyperprogressive disease based their radiological evaluations on RESIST, which, as you described yourself, does not incorporate the new lesions into the total sum. And that's the main limitation that Dr. Che has addressed in the current evaluation method of hyperprogressive disease. And there was one paper that I remember where they presented both data. They presented the number of patients that they obtained if they included the new lesions versus when they did not include the new lesions, if that makes sense. They used RESIST still, but then they said, oh, but then we want to account for these new lesions and we added it into the sum. And they made a comparison. And generally, I think there were two papers that did that. And in both papers, it was a little bit higher. The prevalence ended up being a little bit higher. In terms of like individual patient dynamics, I'm not sure. So that is something that you definitely can do. And I think, like you said, something along the lines of, or should we add the new lesion so that it looks, the effect looks bigger? I think if you're going to do that, you should present both. I think that's the best way to do it. And also I have one question from what you presented. You said some patients had gone through immunotherapy before. Is that like it was second line, did you say?
Yeah, so okay, so first for that, actually we already did also before we go to the questions you asked, I will show it also. So this is the one we do for only Champion, because we have 7%, that 7% for Champion.
Mhm.
So this is like without the new lesion. This is with the new target lesions. It's just like increasing of the slope a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, so and at the end we decide to count for 141 patients for our pool, our sample. The one that have the new lesion we will add on. So me and Eugene and Liam and Dr. Che last week, so we decide to add the new lesions for the sum, and we want to make difference whether it will change the definition of the PD for each criteria. If the PD is increased, it will be like really interesting to our paper. And maybe, yeah, like Dr. Che suggests, maybe we will make a new definition, new suggestion for RESIS. Because I also checked about the iRESIS last week. But for iRESIS, for the new lesions, we need like twice follow-up CT scan. So it will be like another whole job for the iRESIS, for like because they already make a new definition about progressive disease with the iRESIS one. And for the first line and second line, yeah. So that we know this patient get an immunotherapy, but we don't know whether like this patient, like whether they get it at a first line or second line. Maybe the first line is not an immunotherapy. So the immunotherapy come as a second line. That's why we quite categorize it in here. We check by checking the EPIC again one by one. And yeah, some of the patient have like, this is like the second line, the third line, and at the fourth line expired. Yeah, so we check it again, like we threw it again like one by one.
So I think you said something about like redoing the resist for these patients, right?
So we kind of not redoing the resist.
Mm.
So we try to add on the new lesion to the total of the target lesions, right? And we want to check whether there is a change of the TGK and TGR, right? Because the calculation will be different.
Mhm.
If we're talking about the definition of progressive disease, I already check it. Whether this is what we want to do the RECIST criteria or we are using iRECIST, it won't change a lot for the definition of the progressive disease. So we will try to think about the differentiate about the TGK or TGR at the end. And maybe if there is like more than 2 or more than 50, then we can add on. Or maybe we just want to know the number of the incidents of the hyperprogression, whether it will change or not with these new calculations. Sorry, sorry, bad cough.
I see. Yeah. So the two papers that I mentioned, I'll send them to you after the lab meeting. But
Okay.
they basically use the resist criteria. As you said, it's iResist actually uses the same criteria. It just follows up. It's IR resist that adds the new lesions. But the papers that I mentioned to you, the two, they just used resist like before, but they had a table where they said, here we did it by adding all the new lesions into the sum because we think this is a better picture of the patient's progress. So yeah, I'll send those two papers.
Yeah,
afterwards.
please send it to me, because we feel like at this point we realize what the downfall of RECIST, and after redo it like many times, now we really realize what the downfall of the RECIST. And I already tried to compare it with iRECIST, and I feel like it will be kind of have like the same ending. But the iRECIST just really good whether to describe whether this is progressive or not, because they call it like what is it?
Unconfirmed.
Yeah,
progressive.
unconfirmed progressive disease until like the next scan. So it's like
Right.
they put like longer time, and like they take like 4 scan to decide whether like it's progressive or not. Okay.
Okay. So iResist and IR resist is different. So I is immune and IR is immune related.
Correct. They just added related because they made a new criteria.
I think
So-
I'm only familiar with IR resist, I guess.
I think there's
I resist.
5. There's resist, there's iResist, there's IR resist, there's IRRC, which is the one that Kato et al.
WHO.
used. Right.
Yeah.
That's the
And
book you
then
mentioned.
WHO definition utilizes new lesions, correct?
Yes.
I think IRC is better because it's just not widely used. IR resist has been used in secondary objectives of many trials, but at the end, primary objectives are usually just resist. And a lot of people have problem with that for many obvious reasons. But anyway, yeah, I think it's good to show the resist based, all these, I mean, they're all resist based, all the 3 definitions that we used. But I think it's good to add new lesions and show the difference, at least in our cohort, what that would be. And really claim that this is a better way to assess hyperprogression. Not progression, but hyperprogression. And for as far as the negative slope is concerned, it's so first line and second. That's why first line and second line is different. So if you have negative slope in the first line therapy, it means the tumor was shrinking even before we started any therapy. So it doesn't make any sense. Why are you starting therapy when you know tumor is shrinking? If it's a second line therapy, then the prior therapy was working, and then maybe you're switching because of toxicity. But then it's difficult to assess hyperprogression because prior therapy was working. So I think to be purist, you have to get rid of any negative slope because it doesn't make sense logically to assess hyperprogression in patient with negative slope pre-baseline. So I think you can safely take those all out and just say in the method for the tumors which had negative slope, negative growth rate prior to the therapy of interest, whether it's frontline or second line, we took that out of the list. And the more I think about it, that makes more sense. Like it's common sense. I know. I think is it the Champ? What was the definition that accommodated the negative slopes? Was that Champion? Ferreira. Okay. So if we take out the negative slopes out of the denominator, then I guess the hyperprogression may be 0 or something because they're all negative slopes, right? What do you think about that, Minjung? If I can, like, in the method, for our study purpose, we will take out all the negative growth. Pre-treatment of prior to the treatment therapy of interest, if patient has negative slope, or even slope of 0, because we can't calculate it. What do you think? I don't know what other studies have done in other prior publications to deal with negative slope.
So at least for the papers that were included in our meta-analysis, I
Mhm.
don't think in any of them in the methods they mentioned leaving out patients who had like this situation. I think the reason being not all of them created this graph.
Hmm.
So I
Right.
don't think they even had a sense of problem with, having patients who had a negative slope. When I'm looking at the paper by Sean, so in terms of like describing that in the methods, I don't know how reviewers will see it, and I think there was one group that kindly sent their TGK calculations to me, and I think in theirs there was one patient who did have a negative slope. So I think it does happen.
Yeah.
And if you look, I'm looking at the Champion paper right now.
I mean, Champion has no issue of including negative slope because it's all subtraction. But if it's a negative slope, it's hard to do division method, right? Like Champion. So
for Champion, even like all the 7 patients, they show progressive disease. So basically, the graph, all of them like progressing. Even like the progressing is like not double for Champion. And the reason it's not double because, again, this is like the lack of definition of RECIST because they didn't count of the new lesions. But for Sada-Busit, there's stable disease. And for Ferreira, yeah. So that's why like this 2 definition is like the problem. For Champion, we quite okay with that. But for Ferreira and Sada-Busit, we want to know about like the negative slope thing. Yeah, we can say that.
So Minjung, what do you think about taking out negative slope prior to therapy of interest? I think it makes sense.
May I have a little more time to think about it? I just want to like make sure that, because I don't think I'd be able to make a say right now at this point. I just don't want to later face the problem of why did you exclude these patients? So I'll just try to find do more literature searches with the
Hmm.
dynamics. Would that be okay?
Mm-mm.
Okay, thank you, Minjong. Thank
I mean,
you.
I for now, I think I definitely agree with Dr. Che, but I'm just saying, I just want to be extra careful.
Yeah. So give Minjung time to think of any other method to incorporate or exclude. But for now,
Mhm.
keep everyone in your data set, but when you calculate the hyperprogression rate by different definition, take out any negative slope, okay? So do
Okay,
not include them in the denominator for now, until you're given other instructions.
okay, I will do that. Yeah, I will put it in a note for everything we discuss.
And say, and write that in the method section.
Okay. Is there any other questions that that had been we discussed before, Liam and Eugene? Do you think?
Oh, I have just little question regarding analysis part, but maybe I can ask it later because we are gonna include all the second regimen as like separate separate case. I'm wondering if I can do survival or progression-free survival analysis, considering that as individual, like separate patient as well, or do I need to consider just one case per one patient?
For PFS, each case. For OS, each patient.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And for OS, I would take out the second line. I would just put in one for only the first line. Yeah, because it's a two case per one patient.
Right.
So I would just take out the second line case and just deal with the front line.
But for PFS, we can include as many regimen as we can, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I
Okay.
have to go. I will return, but I don't know when. So it may be in the afternoon, but for now, we will conclude the first session. I have things to take care of this morning. So we'll wrap up here for the people for Liam and Eugene, pretty much. And
Dean here as
and
well.
Dean, we will let you know. I have to take care of this. But
Thank
for the people who presented, good job, and we'll see you guys next week.
Dr. Che.
And Dr. Che, really quickly,
Oh.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you able to join the meetings we have in the afternoon?
Yeah, all the meetings in the afternoon will be through Zoom.
Zoom, okay. And
Yeah.
Dr. Eugene and I will join via Zoom then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Che, would it be okay if I just keep this room open and say a couple of things to Dr. Arnie? Or
Yeah. I just want to text you actually.
okay. Yeah, I think it'd be better to just continue the meeting.
I will open the Zoom.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking at the Ferrara paper right now, and
Yes.
they do have patients with negative slopes.
Interesting.
But they just presented their graph. They just used a completely different approach to presenting their data. So let me send
That's really interesting.
let me
Yeah.
send the PDF. Yeah, because
Sorry, like last week, me and Eugene got a really bad cough. Yeah.
yeah,
both of us,
I actually had COVID for the past 2 weeks, and it's been worse than I expected. So yeah, I understand how it's like to have a cold.
Glad that you seem like getting better and
Yeah,
just
yeah. I don't have a sense of smell still. Kind of sad,
Oh.
but
oh boy.
yeah. Let me send you the Ferrara paper on this chat box.
Okay.
So
So now interested how they present a negative slope, because we think about the negative slope, maybe it's because get the first immunotherapy. That's why right now we're doing all the like try to finding like this is like first regimen or like second line, because maybe it's downslope because it's like already get a first line before. At that time, like it's not make sense. That's why like we
Right.
discussed quite long. Yeah.
And the case is, if you look at some of the publications, they include patients who have already received immunotherapy. So the scenario, I think, is definitely feasible to have a negative slope.
Oh,
I think Champia had about 20 patients who had received prior immunotherapy. Let me try to attach. I'm really bad with my computer. Let me try to attach this to the chat room.
and Minjong, I also have one question. Because
Yeah.
you already read this many times, do you think what is the best way to approach the resist? Because like at this point now we realize that resist one-on-one have the downslope, right? For this, for describing progressive disease, not progressive disease, hyper progressions. Because we want to, we are talking about hyper progression. So the resist one-on-one is kind of have a downslope if we want to show hyper progressions. Do you think is the IRSs or the IRSs is better to showing hyper progressions in the graph?
I mean, I think any criteria like IR resist or IRRC, because it does incorporate the new lesions into the sum, I think it is a better reflection of the
Yeah.
tumor progression.
Yeah.
As Dr. Che mentioned, IRRC is a very different approach. It's like it's bidimensional. And so at this point, I think it would be way too much work to try to reanalyze all of the images according to IRC. I think what you did right now with adding the new lesions to the sum is a good approach to showing like this is the more improved way of evaluating HPD. And yeah, I sent the Ferrara paper.
I just downloaded it.
Let me share my screen.
Yeah, please.
And
Maybe
Minjung,
I
quick
should-
question. So when we're adding these new lesions, do you think it's better to add it to RECIST or IR RECIST? Or does it
think-
not matter?
So if you add it, you're doing what IR resist does. The only difference is IR resist requires you to, it doesn't, so in cases where it doesn't seem certain, they term it unconfirmed progressive disease.
Yeah.
But I think that'd be
And then
too
require
time
another
consuming.
CT scan.
Yeah, I think that'd be way too time consuming to do at this point. I think the paper that I mentioned during lab meeting, they just used resist and they said, you know what, because resist doesn't incorporate new lesions, we added it anyways, and we made this comparison. And this is how the incidence varies. And I think that's more than sufficient.
Because last time I already showed Liam, if we want to do IRESIS, we need to collect 140 CT scan of like 2 time points, like after treatment and the next treatment again, Liam. And I said, do you want to do this?
So like
I said, you want to do this? Like, Pichoso. I said that to him, like,
You picked up Korean.
I know.
yeah, because I said like if you want to do like IRSs, okay, you can do it, but we need to find like 140 CT scan again after treatment. It means like 2 months or like 6 months after the baseline.
Right, but the thing is, we anyway have to look at the CT to see whether there is progression or not.
You want to do the IRSs right now? Oh my god!
But I'm not defending like we have to do IRSs, but I'm just thinking about we have to follow all the CT scans to see whether there was progression on the regimen anyway. To see whether to calculate PFS. So but I'm not saying we have to do that.
Yeah, but actually, I'm being honest because I checked for the patient 5 or 6 patients already for collecting the data. I checked about their CT scan. So if we want to do IRSs, some patients doesn't have like the CT scan 2 times after the baseline. So if we do IRSs, we will exclude some patients again. So like because you need four CT scan at this point. So like pre-baseline, baseline, after treatment 1, and after treatment 2. And if we do that, the definition of the progressive disease will be changed also, because you know, like in iResis, there is like unconfirmed and confirmed after the second CT scan. So, but it's up to you. If Liam and Eugene and Zuni, it's okay. I mean, like most of like Zuni and Liam will be the one who collecting the date of the CT scan. I'm still okay doing the counting, but it's up to you guys. I'm just saying it. But do you think doing iResis right now it's okay, or just keep in Resis 1-on-1, Minjong?
Let me check one paper really quickly. I sent it also on the chat box right now, but yeah, okay. So I'll just share my screen and I'll share those two papers,
Yes.
or like I'll describe it so that you don't have to.
You can
read
share
through.
screen now.
Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, so this is the Ferrara paper. And this is the graph that I'm talking about. So this x-axis, wait, can you see the
Yeah, I
screen?
can see it.
Okay, yeah, the x-axis shows the pre-baseline change in tumor volume per month. And basically all of these patients here who are to the left of the x-axis had a pre-baseline change that was negative.
Oh,
So they used this method of drawing a line, since the Ferrara definition is basically a sum. They created a line that defines hyperprogressive disease, and all patients who basically are above this line, I believe, yeah, who are up here and also had a TG are, yeah, all the patients here were basically hyperprogressive disease patients, and all of the patients here basically had a negative, they had a shrinkage in the pre-baseline phase. So this is how they graphed it. And I think there is, let me show one more example. So the graph that you made, I think I've seen it in maybe 3 papers or so.
wow. But Ferreira make the graphs better.
I think
I said to Dr. Che whether we should make scatter plot, but Dr. Che really want to make it as a line because it can show like the progressive. It's like double, you know, like that's why like he really wants to make it in the line.
right, but then the problem, well, I guess it works in our case, but in some of the papers, it was so crowded you couldn't tell who was who.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's what happens in the Champion paper too. Here, let me pull up. But then, yeah, you can just, oh no, it's not this one. You can just mention it to Dr. Che, and so like if you look at this, it's kind of hard to tell who's who. So it looks, I think, it looks
Unpresentable.
interesting, but yeah. So there are 2 ways of presenting it.
But we're
Okay,
gonna
I will show it to
there's-
Dr. Che. I will put it on the note and I will show it to Dr. Che.
So I think this
Because-
paper did one of the best jobs at comparing the definitions. And they used both the scatter plot and the line. But even
Okay.
here, it's kind of,
Yeah, for the line, I already show it 140 patients using the line. It's like too much. It's like you cannot like describe which one and which one. I show it 140 with line to Dr. Che. It's just like make a color box, you know. And after that, Dr. Che said just make for the incidence one, like 7 for Champion and 19 for like 3 for Ferreira. But at the end, still, if we want to Sada Buzit also like the graph is not good for Sada Buzit, because I realized something, Minjong, Sada Buzit, many patients stable disease in Sada Buzit. There's a lot of stable disease in Sada Buzit definition.
wait,
Like
I see.
Yeah, almost half the RECIST criteria is stable disease in Sada Buzit.
Yeah,
And
it's because they don't include the progressive disease as a criteria. So it makes sense. And they also admit that their definition is more inclusive. And then the Wing paper. This is the paper that basically compared between adding the new lesions versus not.
Oh, okay.
And they went above and beyond because they compared 7 different definitions. Yeah, so here are the definitions that they used. So just to make things simple, like you can see, this is the Ferrara definition, right? But with the new lesions included versus not included.
included
so
in
those,
some of the lesions or
So-
into consideration.
right. So they just used resist, and definition 1, this definition is the Ferrara definition, but they said to make things more better reflective of progression, we're going to include new lesions in this definition. And then definition 4 is the exact same definition, but it excludes the new lesions in the total sum. And then definition 2 is the Champiat definition with the new lesions included, and then so on, blah, blah, blah. So they did 7, and they have this. Maybe, yeah, but the thing is if you're only showing the patients who have hyperprogressive disease, there aren't that many. So I think it is cleaner, definitely, than including all of them. So it might be better to have this graph.
Minjo, for that graph, go
Hmm?
go up for that
This
graph,
one?
the one that you
Mhm.
no, the before that you show before, go up. Yeah, this one.
Up?
So this is like the one in the left side. No, go down a little bit. The green and the red one. So it's like the before ECI just only like little, and it's like showing only like in the left side it's like the before immunotherapy, and like in the right side after immunotherapy and the progression. And but there is like hyperprogressive disease before immunotherapy.
Oh, so they included patients who had progressive disease but didn't have hyperprogressive disease, who are in green, and then the patients. So they're
Okay.
comparing the dynamics of patients who had progressive disease but didn't have HPD versus patients who did have HPD, and they're showing that,
graph is good. This graph is good.
Yeah, so I think you can make more discussions with Dr. Chen and make the decision. But they in this graph, I think they only used one of the definitions for comparison, and then they just have a table, I think. Where's the table? Here, yeah, they just had a table and they compared all the incidences for each of the definitions. And you can tell, for example, definition 1, as I said, is the definition by Ferrara with the lesions included in 6.3%. When they don't include the new lesions, it's half. The incidence is half. So definitely when you do include the new lesions, the incidence goes up.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's okay to just use resist and add the new lesions.
Okay. At least we met in the same page first, like resist and new lesions. So we're not doing iResist, okay?
Right. I mean, you since you.
No. I'm talking with the other guys. I talk with the other guys. Like, give any. If you want to do the iResist or anything, give any feedback since now, because collecting the data is like kind of a homework, because we must do like 140 patients since the start again, even collecting the date of the progressions, like the date of the patients. Yeah, so right now we are collecting that, really hoping that we finish it this week actually. So yeah. Any add-on, Liam?
No, I think I agree. Like Eugene was saying, I was just curious because since we have to collect all the data from scratch anyways, like did we just want to add another column? But then if, like you said, it probably means we're going to have to change the, the number of patients who are included for the analyses because of the fourth CT scan availability. I think it just makes more sense, at least for the purposes of our current project, just to stick with the RECIST and add the new lesions like they were
Yeah.
doing.
But okay, but I think let make it like this. Just try to it won't be really hard just to collect another date. You won't count you won't open the CT scan right at the end. I think I'll be the one and Zuni again if we need to count the CT scan again. But just try to add on the date first. If there is like 4 date, we will see whether like is that many patients that have the 4 date CT scan. If there is like many, maybe we can do it. But if not, just stick with 3 date. Because at this point we will like doing all over again for the 140. What do you think, guys, about this? What do you guys think about it, like 2 of you?
I agree. I think we can just add another column and at least add on the date. So like you said, if there is sufficient data and if we feel like we want to include that for this study, then we could. But if not, we can just at least have that date information so that we can use that for like a future study. If someone, like when you come back, for like a future study, if we want to look at that and then do one for IR RECIST, we could do that potentially.
Because I think for the IR RECIST, the definition from the progressive disease will be changed. After like, even like, so if in the RECIST criteria, you already said it's progressive disease, in IR RECIST, it won't say progressive disease yet. Unconfirmed until like the next CT scan. So I think so. Just check the date and we'll see whether it's sufficient or not. If sufficient, then I will do it again. Because for me, if it's already have the date, it will be like easier to check it one by one. Then check
exactly.
I think so.
Exactly.
Okay.
Also,
so
one other thing is when you basically when you confirm progressive disease for IR RECIST, it usually has to be done within a period of 4 to 6 weeks. And usually this only happens if the institution already uses IR RECIST. So I think my concern is, even if I think it's definitely a good idea to make a record of patients who do have a CT scan, but my concern is there may be a substantial number that just don't have a CT scan within that time interval at all, because Northwestern just uses RECIST.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So 4 and 6 weeks. Usually Dr. Shea even like do first scan in like 8.
Yeah.
8 weeks.
And the follow-up is usually after 8
Right,
weeks.
after 8. So yeah, probably not many patients will be eligible for fourth, like for that kind of evaluation. And may I ask just one question, like in terms of an analyzing point of view, I saw one of the paper you just showed to us. Thank you for sharing all the like papers, and I noticed like chemotherapy cohort and immunotherapy cohort. So could you elaborate more on what those that like cohort means? Like how do they usually separate group? Because I literally had no idea. I had to like separate patients according to their. We just started to collect the information on regimen, like whether it is combination or whether it was first regimen or second regimen. I had no idea how it is important, how they are important. But I do feel it's gonna be important factor to consider. So for this time, I feel strongly that I have to separate at least for the subgroup analysis. I have to separate patients on like regimen. So chemotherapy cohort and immunotherapy cohort. Can you elaborate on what others like scholars deal with?
Yeah, so in terms of the Ferrara paper, let's see. I think out of out of like the 100-something papers on hyperprogressive disease that I've read for the meta-analysis,
Mhm.
the term like chemotherapy cohort refers to just another completely different set of group of patients.
Oh.
It's not referring to like subdividing the cohort by regimen. None of the papers did that. It's just that some people wanted to compare the incidence of hyperprogressive disease or
Uh-huh.
like patient characteristics when compared with the completely different cohort of patients who only receive chemotherapy.
Okay, okay.
And even I think maybe like 3 papers did that.
Uh-huh.
And even in those cases, oftentimes they weren't even from the same time period.
Mm,
Like they just kind of took a random time
okay,
like
okay, got it.
and just selected patients who received chemotherapy only. So
Mhm. We don't need.
most publications only, they're only concerned with
Oh,
the
okay.
immunotherapy group.
My bad.
Because the thing with immunotherapy is we can't, divide patients into, oh, you can only receive chemotherapy and you can only receive immunotherapy, right? Because we
Right,
know
right.
that immunotherapy is more beneficial to a certain subset of patients. But for the sake of, being more rigorous, they said, oh, we'll compare it with the chemotherapy cohort. But even so, it's not, perfect because it's a completely different group of patients. So I don't think you need to be concerned with that at all. And for the
Like
mm,
regimen wide,
mhm.
are there any papers who classify like immunotherapy first regimen or second regimen, something like that?
So even that,
Uh-huh.
like some papers are really specific, like, oh, this many patients receive combination. I can wait, let's see. I might have collected that data in a table for my meta-analysis,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't think you need to see it. Basically, some people, it depends on how specific you want to be. Some people were really detailed,
Mhm.
like, oh, 30 people received, single immunotherapy, some people received dual, but then others, they just did like, oh, this is their second line, this is their third line. Some groups didn't even, look
It
into that
didn't
at
even
all.
mention. Okay, it
Mm-mm.
depends on like, okay.
Yeah,
Are
it's just how much in depth do you want to go into?
Yeah.
And personally, I think so they collected that data to see if the type of regimen has an impact on the incidence, right? Because like you're comparing clinical characteristics. And yeah, I think most of them weren't conclusive because they didn't have the details of the regimen. Like, so they just kind of broadly classified it and said,
We just want to ask that because right now we are like doing that, like collect it like one by one again from the start scratch, right? So I think Eugene just want to make it sure if we need to collect until which depth we need to collect
right.
everything, because like yeah, for the past week when we know we need to collect all of this, it's not easy actually. Quite
No, yeah, it's
yeah,
not.
you need to be really careful about like whether like first regimen, second regimen, like the depth and yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, like the hyperprogression topic, it's really interesting. The way we more collaborate with this and the more we find the data, it's more interesting. I really hope this project going well.
Yeah,
At least for the abstract, I'm pretty sure, I'm confident that it's still like on the track. Yeah, but we'll see for the manuscript later.
in terms of collecting data, I don't think there's an end. Like if you decide to look into all the details, yeah, you can, but it's just, yeah, it's a really time consuming process that let me just, I think my advice would be the papers that propose the main definitions like Champiat, Sada Bouzid, and Ferrara, look into their manuscripts and see which ones they did. I'm looking into Champiat right now. Here, I'll share the screen. And you can see it, right?
Yeah.
So this is the only classification they did for the therapy. Was it PD1 or PDL1?
Not even like the order of regimen, like first or second. They just
No.
classified it. Okay. Thank you.
Doctor
And
Che,
if they receive previous, yeah, they did this.
Oh, but they, okay, previous,
what
no, they
radiation?
did. They considered the line of regimen. They collected previous chemo or targeted immuno.
We,
Right.
we
So I
didn't
think
we didn't classify radiation, right, Eugene? We only chemo targeted, but not radiation.
but even this, I think, is a more detailed. Let's see. Let's just
Mm.
take a look right now and see.
Right,
what
Arnie,
they-
you're correct. We might have to collect radiation as well.
Oh my God. Mori apa?
Wait,
Not that important.
did you learn all of this Korean in Chicago, or did you have some
Yeah.
previous knowledge?
No. I learned
She can
many
communicate in Korean like in a basic level. Yeah.
yeah.
So you must have heard Mori apa a lot while you were in Chicago.
No, I'm
Is
the one who said that to them, like, Mori apa?
Mori apa. Yeah, I think Koreans say that a lot. I think we have like chronic headaches.
Yeah. Because like actually we didn't suggest that. Like Dr. Che is the one who keep digging more information and more information. So we need to recheck all the data again, It's not like we are the ones who suggest it. Like he gave us like many pop-up advice and we need to recheck everything again.
Yeah. I think my job in this project is letting you know where you don't have to do extra work. So if you look at the Sada Buzid paper right now, like they don't even have anything on therapy. Like they only have the previous lines of treatment and then PD1, PDL1. So I think this is more simple than Champion, right?
But interestingly, they did include, in any form, the information on the previous treatment, and then
Right. I think here, let's see.
Right now,
I mean, that's not, yeah, maybe that should be, if it has to be done, like, I think it's right to do.
Right.
Right.
Eugene really like collecting data, really specific.
No, I mean, I don't
Last
think
time-
what people like collecting data.
Last time we even specify the chemotherapy, which chemotherapy that's being already received by the patients.
So
Not
I don't think it has to be like to the detail of what
Right.
regimen they went through, but
Mm.
like as Dr. Eugene is saying right now, like at least maybe the number of previous lines of therapy that they received and what type it was.
Type of,
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us like guideline, and then thank you. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry I couldn't be of any more help, but
No,
here, let
you're
me-
huge.
Uh,
let me see.
You're helping us a lot. Actually, I want to text you since last week because but because I'm sick, I'm sorry I didn't contact anybody.
Oh no, it's okay. So let's see what they did. Since I've read most of these papers, I can at least find the information more quickly. So let's see. They have performance status. This is a HCC paper, so that's why they have society.
Oh, they even have all the LLT and ASD, like many lab.
They have this only. Previous radiotherapy, no, yes.
So information can be different depending on cancer type and journal authors.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. One last paper. Let's try and look at
Oh,
one.
you're good. You're good.
Okay, I think if you want to add on in our table, Eugene and Liam, I think just if you want to add radiation therapy for the previous one, I think it's okay to add that in our table. Also for the date for the next CT scan, if there is, let's put it if there is, but it will be just like little because it's like less than 6 weeks, right? And I think other than that, I think it will be like more than enough for our table. I think. Is there
Wait,
any?
so do you want to just add the fourth CT only if it's within 6 weeks or regardless of the date?
Like Minjong say, for the IRESIS criteria, you need like 6 weeks from the baseline, right?
It has to be within 4 to 6 weeks.
Within 4 to 6 weeks after the latest CT, right?
After the
bas-
first evaluation in order to confirm it. So the time frame for confirming PD is 4 to 6 weeks. So maybe just recording the date first and seeing how many patients do have that additional CT, I think would be fine at this point.
Yeah, I think so. We just collect the date first. If like there's sufficient, then we can do it. But if not, let's not do it, because I feel like it will be like less because of the timeline of the date. Because I feel like Dr. Che not that often to do CT scan except there's progression or maybe metastatic. I think that's quite collect everything that we want to ask. Is there any other questions?
I have I'm sorry, like you guys can go, like,
No,
Oh.
it's okay.
okay, this is for Yuno's hyperprogression manuscript. I'm trying to figure out which definition he or Hyunsun used for this manuscript, and can I just share my screen? I think it would be, I mean, Minjung, you don't need to just give us an answer, but I want to just your opinion. So if you see this, I think they use TGK.
So Dr. Hyunsun used a modified Sadabuzzi definition, which
Modified.
happens pretty often in current literature. So
Oh,
because Sadabuzzi is kind of like it tends to overestimate,
uh-huh.
I think one of the modifications she added was adding TTF less than 2 months.
Right. Here, I noticed TTF. So I was kind of confusing, like, did they use like Kato? But it was kind of modified version of Sadabuzit. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
Sadabuzzi is the easiest to calculate.
Mhm.
That's like what they always claim, like, yeah, ours is the easiest way to calculate. But then because we have this limitation,
Uh-huh.
other papers add modifications that they think will, kind of make up for its kind of shortcomings. So
Okay.
adding TTF is one of them.
Mhm.
I
I'm
don't
probably
know. I feel like Sada Busit definition actually I feel cannot be used anymore. I feel like because actually it's not progressing. It's like most patient is like stable if we address it in the criteria. That's why I not really understand with the Sada Busit actually.
Thank you, Minjung, for clarification. I'll just try to find some nice reference to back up their modification, and then I'll reference that article.
I don't remember if there were other differences. I think Dr. Hyunsun left kind of what is it? I don't know what to call it, like a summary of what she did. Let me just try to share that right now before we end this meeting, because
Yeah.
I have a bad memory, so I just have to do it when I remember.
I really hope if Eugene go back to Korea, Minjong can come to our lab. Yeah, we need these two people in our lab.
Huh? Wait, sorry, my computer is kind of going crazy right now. It's
The core message is Arnie want you to come to the J lab as a manager.
no. I think Dr. Eugene is like the hero of the lab.
No,
and I mean, like when I look at her work, it's like want to learn from you.
The thing is, my battery is running out. Like, I got like cough in the summer. I got cold in the summer, which is weird.
Me and Eugene got cough and cold in summer. It's really
my only concern is that Dr. Eugene doesn't have like 2 extra bodies to do the work. There's only one Dr. Eugene, so it's like Dr. Che was probably excited to have her around, and I'm sure he has so many ideas that he wants to execute with her. But then she only has one body, so
that's why I'm telling you.
I pray in the morning for her physical strength. Like, dear God, you know how passionate Dr. Eugene is, but she only has one body. I pray that Dr. Che would understand that she only has one body. Anyway, let me just find that document really quickly.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I think. Let me see. Mhm. You guys can chit chat. I'll try to find it quickly. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Eugene will be back to Korea soon in a couple months. That's why I'm saying maybe Minjong can come and replace Eugene.
I can never be a replacement for
She will excel, but the thing is, yeah.
We need we need
Let's
this kind of
pray for
people here.
Minjong to finish. Let's pray for Minjong for her finishing exam exams well.
Uh, we need this kind of people, Liam.
Yes,
not
we do.
me.
Yeah.
No, I think you guys are good enough to be lab manager, like next lab manager, right?
I
Are-
agree.
I don't understand what you're talking about, Eugene. I don't understand. I don't
아,
understand.
머리 아파.
I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. I just said that.
Let's see. Because she changed the link. I'll try to find it quickly. Sorry.
Oh, Arnie, what about this? What if we have them both?
I don't understand at all. And also, oh yeah, and also I remember that Eugene say that will be teach us Prism before she left. We need to learn Prism before she left.
yeah, if you
Prism.
if you guys learn Prism, then you guys don't need me. Like yeah. Prism can
Yeah, machine can
like-
replace me.
I have
we,
I have
we only need you because of the machine. No, we need you because it's you, not because
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. No one
We'll
can
still learn Prism and we'll still keep you.
yeah. Yeah, but we think we need to learn Prism. I think because Prism is easy compared to
Yeah,
R,
no,
but still I don't know how to use it.
yeah, it's hard.
What time you will come to the lab today, Eugene and Liam?
just finishing this lab meeting, I'm gonna join like on site.
Okay.
you're not coming in, Arnie, are you?
No. I will just study outside today. My cup is better, but I need to see sun a little bit because if inside the room I don't get any sun. Yeah, I will just study out.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, I want to study. Need to.
Eugene, are you feeling better?
Feeling better, definitely better, but not fully. But yeah, still.
You know why I'm feeling better? Yesterday I slept from 8 o'clock until today, about 8 o'clock also.
Sleep definitely
Well
helps.
done, well done. Yeah.
I think that's the reason I'm healthy. I'm better right now.
Mm.
Eugene, you don't know. So I think we have a 2 p.m. meeting with Delphi.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if we have any other meetings? I forgot to check before I left yesterday.
Before 2.
Before 2 or afterwards?
Mm, other than the one with professor at Gyeongbuk University. That's
Oh,
on
right. That's at 5:30.
That's at
Oh,
5.
wait. But isn't William and Chinyo coming today?
No, he postponed it because he cannot make
Oh.
it. Right?
Okay.
Wait, is this Will Chang?
No, William Bay.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Different people. I can't find the document. I think
Oh, you're good.
I think it might have been deleted, but I'll try to see if I downloaded a copy, and I'll try to send it by, yeah, in the next hour or so.
No need to hurry. Like, just yes.
It's also hard to find.
Yeah, and it's
that-
pretty late in Korea. Like, what time is it now there?
It's
1
12.
a.m.
1 a.m.
Yeah, but it's okay. I'm awake. I drank my cup of coffee.
Aw, you should get some sleep.
I'll just find that and I'll go sleep.
Thank you, Minjong. I will text you again if we have any more questions about it. And good job, everyone. We will make it.
Yeah.
Almost. Right
We
now,
will.
hyperpropagation in the boiling pot. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Minja, I have one quick question, just out of curiosity. So when it comes to the hyperprogression field, where do you see the kind of definitions going, or this field headed towards in terms of definitions of hyperprogression? Do you think they're going more towards iRECIST, IR-RECIST, or IRRC, or something totally different?
So the ideal is using the criteria that incorporates new lesions. The only limitation is they're just not using it at hospitals. They like to stick to what they are used to using. So
Okay.
IRRC and IR-RECIST, which are the two criteria that do incorporate new lesions, I think currently they're only being used in clinical trials, but not in the hospital
see.
setting. So the direction definitely would be, in that direction, but right now they're just not willing to make the change because it means, radiologists have to become familiar with it and so on. So yeah, and I think the direction that they're taking, the other direction that they're taking is just completely abandoning RECIST and using, radiomics or different ways of analyzing data that's not limited to, unit dimensional measurements. Because right now, yeah, it's complicated, but the mathematical model for tumor growth that they're using right now is pretty limited and is not reflective of the actual dynamics of tumor growth in the three-dimensional space. So that's why radiomics is handy in that, it can measure the entire lesion accurately.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about radiomics is they're characterizing other features in the images. For example, I think a group from Cleveland, Ohio, found that patients with hyperprogression, the blood vessels around the lesion were more tortuous. So it's more twisted and so on. And so these characteristics, I think in the long run will really help people, will help clinicians predict patients who will have hyperprogressive disease or not. The thing is, we're not using radiomics in the hospitals yet because it's costly and because we don't have the manpower who can actually, make these algorithms and run it and so on. So
is the technology there yet though?
It's almost there. Almost there.
Almost.
Yeah, I would say.
Exciting times.
Yeah, and also before we end the discussion, I just want to remembering Liam and Eugene, you can buy the token right now in Eras through Oasis. The application is starting. Oh my god!
Are all three of you applying this year?
Technically saying,
Yes. And
Please, I don't know, Minjong. I'm really worried.
You can do it. You can do it.
I'm
High